Warning, we are not your attorneys. Please, don't take anything we say as legal advice. I'm Jeff.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Derek.
And you are listening to the Not So Grand Jury,
which is still sponsored by Morwa PLLC.
Hey there, listeners. Post-production Jeff here, and I'm going to apologize right now if you hear some dogs barking in the background. I'm trying to avoid them, but what are you going to do? This episode you're about to hear is the second half of our discussion of several Scrubs episodes featuring Sacred Heart's bumbling general counsel, Ted Buckland, played by the late, great Sam Lloyd. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, I urge you, please, to pause this episode, go back and listen to part 1, which dropped on February 26th. There is some necessary context in that episode, and without it, some of this episode might not make any sense. Now, assuming you have listened to our last episode, or you just like joining conversations in the middle, freak, here's part 2. This is a side point here. Dr. Kelso's remarks are both racist and sexist and would, and especially in a conversation where he is denying them a cost of living raise.
Right.
So actionable. I mean.
Oh yeah, no, it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And let's move on.
Real quick, and I don't know if Derek mentioned this at the top, but you can cut it out if he did. So this is part of a series of episodes. This is their story. This is their story too. Her story. her story too.
I like Jeff. I like Jeff. It's called Scrubs.
Sorry,
Mike.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Mike's point, and this is true. I had said at the start of the sort of summary, Mike, that this is one of those. This is one of the few episodes where JD releases narrating duties. I think your point is that there are a few.
They did like 1 or 2 a season.
Right. Okay. There's a couple his stories, a couple her stories. And this is, I think, the only their story, I believe.
No, there's their story and their story too.
Okay, there's a couple their stories.
Okay.
So yeah, he does release, but I think this is what's interesting is every time he gives a reason for giving it up, and I think giving it up. Good job, Derek. He gives a reason for no longer narrating. And in this one, he kind of just says, I don't have anything to talk about, as I recall. Do you have it, Jeff?
I didn't think to pull that because it wasn't legally relevant.
I was kind of hoping you were ready because you had done it so far the last 2 times. But anyway, I think he just sort of says he just doesn't really have a reason for him to be narrating.
Gotcha.
One other sort of fun fact about this episode, and we haven't actually talked about Todd's patient too much. There isn't too much to talk about other than the fact that a mother is entitled to give her daughter a gift. And if she feels like, she's being made fun of, she's entitled to it. As long as there's informed consent and all that stuff, I don't see any issue with it. Do you have thoughts, Mike? Because I know you have some comments here.
I mean, a doctor could decline to do non-necessary work if they're uncomfortable with it. But
I've never heard a plastic surgeon actually doing that.
Yeah. It's also... Turk is not their doctor. The fact that he's upset by a service that they're providing is his problem.
Let's be honest. If you are, and I believe they're not residents here. They're doctors.
I guess Turk is opposed to gender affirming care, but
so that's a topic that I was interested in touching on because that's a huge issue right now, and whether doctors can provide gender affirming care, one of which could be breast implants, to minor patients with their consent, with the parents' consent. That is a particular hot button issue right now. And there are a bunch of conscience laws, or at least bills that are being pushed in states. Yeah.
Usually the way it hits the news is people debating it. And the argument from, I think I can speak for all of us when I say that all right, let me speak for myself. I am in favor of people being able to pursue gender affirming care. And usually the way I want to phrase it is, with informed consent of their doctor. And, obviously you're not getting surgery from a doctor who does not consent to perform it on you.
Sure.
Sorry, if a minor patient has the approval of their family and their doctor, I think that it's no one else's business but the parties involved there.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's interesting that given that connection, which probably if this connection existed in Bill Lawrence's mind at the time, it was very forward thinking of him. But to call it their story and play a bit with the pronouns is also interesting. There's also a question of Ted being given coffee or tea that is scaldingly hot as another potential issue here.
Extra hot tea for Ted. Aw, he didn't give you a cardboard sleeve. Still, don't rock the boat. You don't want people staring. Besides, how hot can it be? Holy Mother of God! Huge mistake! Huge mistake! Just keep moving. No one saw that. Aw, Kelso.
So, do we want to talk about McDonald's?
As someone who worked at McDonald's, I would happily talk about McDonald's.
I will note Ted ordered an extra hot tea, which I find interesting. But yeah, do you want to talk about McDonald's and the coffee lawsuit and the crazy burns that were suffered by?
I don't know if
you've
you've done the research. I haven't done the research in a while. I can tell you that it was discussed heavily in law school. But what's interesting about that case, and there is certainly literature about this on the inner tubes if you want to look into it, was at the time, it was more of a PR lawsuit than anything else. It was McDonald's like really shitting on her, trying to make her to be like she was making this ridiculous claim and blah, blah, blah. As I recall, she was actually very reasonable at first.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, what she did was probably stupid, but ordered coffee. She was a passenger in a car, put it between her legs to put the cream and sugar in it. It spilled. It didn't just burn her; it gave her third degree burns
on her
because
genitals.
it attached to her sweatpants, which then just sort of made it even worse. And then you find out that McDonald's had like 500 of these complaints within the last year or so, but because they sell billions of coffees, they're like, we can resolve those. It's no big deal. They chose not to make any changes because it would require active changes in their restaurants, which would not necessarily be easy. They chose not to do that. As I understand, all she asked them to do was to pay her hospital bills, which were like a couple $1,000s.
I believe that's correct.
They never offered more than $1,000 to her. She went to litigation. They had this huge PR campaign against her about how ridiculous she was. She ends up winning it in front of the jury. The jury believed the fact that like McDonald's was aware of this and chose not to do anything about it.
Yep.
She won millions of dollars, which then got chopped down on appeal. Then there was some back and forth, and they ultimately had a confidential settlement at the end of everything. But it was sort of a wake-up call to be like, you can't just ignore obvious issues and like safety issues.
You say wake up call. There's a series of cases that you're taught about in law school, or that you should learn about if you're going to be involved in this kind of litigation, where any one of these should have been a wake up call. The Ford Pinto one is the one that always screams out to me, where there's a memo from Ford saying, "Well, it would cost this much to fix it and this much to settle each individual death, and it's worth more to just pay off the dead people, or it's easier to pay off the dead people."
Yeah,
and that was like. The McDonald's one is even a little crazier to me because it's like redesigning and machining a car is like a multi-million-dollar process, can be $1 billion process. Changing how you do your coffee to be like remotely similar to every other coffee place on the planet cannot cost nearly as much.
Unless you have some really big problems with your business model, I suppose.
Yeah, but there's. Every other coffee place in the world is somehow able to do this without serving scalding hot coffee.
Right.
Also, like 10 years ago when McDonald's tried to rebrand as McCafe, this is all I could think about.
Sure. one thing that I want to push back on is I don't know how much of a wake-up call it was when it led to a bunch of state-level laws that limit punitive damages in these situations because McDonald's was playing it up as this absurd thing. And it's like, no, they brought this on themselves. They weren't going to change unless they were given a big verdict. And so in order to not piss off businesses, lawmakers around the country were like, well, let's, this is ridiculous. Let's limit punitive damages to
both things can be true, because I've also been involved in cases where it's like, amazing, my client is being sued here, makes no sense, we're still going to settle for 15 grand or something just to get it to go away.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, it's just cheaper to pay the other party. Like, obviously, litigation has been good to all of us, but like there are moments where you see that we are, it is too easy to sue somebody, or that the system is a little broke.
Oh, sure.
I mean, listen, all of us, Jeff in a different way, but Mike and I have certainly had these conversations with our clients to be like, this is how much it's going to cost you. And Jeff, yours is probably more of an emotional cost, but like there's still cost involved in going through the process. And a number of times I have to be like, this is a $30,000 case, get it over with, on either side, whatever the heck side it is, like, get it over with.
Yep.
And it is what it is. I will say once in a while you get a little lucky and find people at the right time. I think I may have even mentioned this on the podcast before. I had like a $25,000 case where I was on the defense side and just trying to just not do anything. Like, just get the case over with as best as possible. Mm-hmm. And it turns out I got lucky, and there happened to be a moment where the other side was just, they were about ready to wind down the company, and they were just trying to get rid of all the litigation. So I happened to catch them at the right time to be like, my client will only sue for nuisance value. And they're like, out of curiosity, what do you mean by nuisance value? And I was like, $1,000. And they're like, sold, send us the settlement agreement. And I'm like,
amazing.
That was a very weird call to my client to be like, so I settled the case. They're like, we didn't have authority. And I'm like, it's $1,000. And they're like, you have the authority. And I'm like, yes. Like, I know I technically didn't have authority, but I had the authority. Like,
it's occasionally there's the deal that you have to jump on.
Right.
Like,
and I was like, could you send me some petty cash and we can make this go away? That'd be great. Thanks. And so like once in a while you'll get that, but most of the time, like Mike said, like just to try to do the motion to dismiss or even just get into the case is going to cost you $10,000. Make it go away. Yeah. So it's frustrating. But no, now here comes the question. Ted asks for extra hot tea.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
How hot can you make tea?
It literally is probably like they just boiled it and they fired it into the cup.
It's like super boiling. Like if anything disturbs it, it will instantly evaporate.
Yeah, it's on the verge of flash boiling. I mean, so tea, you're not generally heating to boiling. Well, I'm sorry, you're generally not drinking it boiling. You have boiled some water and waited 5 minutes.
Well, to say it's steeped for at least a few minutes. It can't be unless they literally, like he said, extra hot tea. Are they steeping it while it's boiling? If that's the case, then we're talking about it.
I don't know.
I also like Ted. Ted's answer is not to just find the little cardboard thing that will probably make him not die. It is, you got this. Seem normal,
don't want to
buddy.
Embarrass anybody.
Seem normal, buddy. You're good. Kind of funny. Hi, everyone. Derek here with a brief message. The Not So Grand Jury is sponsored by my law firm, Morwa PLLC. One of Morwa PLLC's many practice areas is business law. If you are a business owner or someone who is thinking of starting up a new or side business, you need a legal team who can efficiently provide you legal counsel, keeping you and your business away from potential legal issues, and if necessary, representing you in any disputes that do arise. We pride ourselves on being cost efficient while also getting to know our clients. If you want less stress and more support, you need more law. If you would like to set up a free consult, please click on the link in the show notes, visit our website, www.mooreatty.com, that's mooreatty.com, or email us at contact@mooreatty.com. And now, back to the show. Actually, before I jump into the episode, Mike had the same comment that I noticed regarding the first episode, which is that Dr. Cox's rant about things that have a better chance of happening than you winning the lottery includes Britney Spears
Things that happened.
having a hit record, and she then had what, 3 more after that?
It's from the day that was recorded, which also I think that episode came out 20 years ago today. But
Right, right. But I find that hilarious. I actually had that same thing in my sort of random notes too, which I found kind of funny.
Yeah, and people do win the lottery.
Well, as we discussed, someone's got to win.
Right.
Right.
It's not a reason to buy a ticket, but okay.
Literally, somebody doesn't have to win.
Eventually, they win.
I mean, yeah, usually, but they don't have to.
Oh my!
I suppose that's true.
Well, yeah, in that current drawing, but then it gets higher. Why wouldn't you just keep going?
This is all right. Go on.
Anyway, and you're by the way, you're talking to a guy who was a math major in college. I'm aware of how ridiculous it is, but also, but there's a chance. What's a couple bucks for me to try to make the chance? You know,
I understand. No, I get like you're paying for the fantasy. I get it.
Yeah, you gotta have the fantasy. Who hasn't thought about what would happen if you won the lottery? Not in this. I mean, by the way, mine is a little bit more than not sharing beds with my mom. I go further than that.
Oh man, that was gonna be my next joke. You can finally move out of your
yeah. When my wife is listening to this, which she does, and in fact commented on, she actually is one of the most recent people to rate our podcast, which will be discussed in this coming sidebar.
So we just need Mike's mom, and we'll have the trifecta. Okay.
Does Mike's mom listen?
No, definitely not. My mom does. She doesn't know what a podcast is.
Darn.
Well, that's sad. Anyway,
it's
we've had Jeff's family, we've had my family. We need to really see what we can do. Anyway,
just center the link, Mike, and center the link to us on iTunes. Have her write something nice.
Okay. Okay.
Well, it'll be great
because you're a good boy. My mom.
I mean, Jeff's mom
Such
wasn't far off.
Jeff's mom wasn't far so much.
Oh, it's such a great comment, Mrs. Blackwell. We love you. All right, so let's jump into the last episode, season 8, episode 8. My Lawyer's in Love. There's one big reason why I love this episode, and it is for a quote that Ted gives. Jeff, could you be so kind?
Gooch, I'm really not what you would call a winner. Oh, sure, I'm a lawyer, but that's only because I took the bar exam in Alaska, and they only have like 4 laws, and most of them are about when you can and cannot kill seals. And if it seems like I'm uninterested, it's only because I have no idea why you would like me. I mean, you are the most beautiful, perfect ukulele player I've ever seen. I know that's not saying much because they're usually fat Hawaiians. Still, I think what I'm trying to say is, Stephanie, I would love to go and have coffee with you.
Well, what time do you get off of work?
Who cares?
I have watched Scrubs over probably 30 times all the way through. That is still probably my favorite clip of Scrubs. And it's for a couple reasons. Obviously, the whole lawyer aspect of it's kind of funny. I also think Kate Micucci is a great actor. Like, love her. Like, she's such a great character. Like, when she plays a character that sort of fits her, she's so good. And it's sort of the real first moment where Ted jumps out and actually becomes himself, which I sort of love.
I will say she is responsible for one of the 2 laughs that this set of 3 episodes elicited from me. So, yeah, points to her for that.
So we already know Jeff's rating for the episode.
Hey, just because you didn't laugh out loud doesn't mean that you can't be entertaining.
It was the tears of joy that did it for him.
I mean, fair enough. So let's talk about the plot line. So obviously, based on the clip you just heard, one of the big plots of this episode is Ted falling in love with Stephanie Gooch, played by Kate Micucci, not a fat Hawaiian ukulele player who plays for the kids in the pediatrics ward. Let's just say Ted's not great at.
It would have been great if this had been before Izzy died, and it was Izzy playing the Gooch role. I think that would have been that would have made this much more entertaining.
I do love that. I do love that. Good chunk of this episode is JD and the janitor calling a brief truce on their own antics to help Ted get the confidence to actually talk to her. And the clip you just heard is basically him getting there, as it were. I'm assuming, Jeff, the hilarious part you have is when they were playing together when he's, they're both singing.
Enough for this to happen.
Because I like you.
I like you.
I like you.
I like you.
And like can lead to like. And like can lead to love. Sure as the stars above, I'd really like to screw you.
Oh. When we're singing and the band's around, everything's fine. But as soon as we're alone, I literally can't breathe.
There's also a mini webisode of them singing together more.
Oh, nice.
I love that. Yeah. So that's sort of the A plot. The B plot, which is actually very interesting, and I know Jeff wanted to discuss a little bit about this, is Dr. Cox has now become the chief of medicine and is having a real hard time with his workload, trying to be the chief of medicine while also trying to keep up with his family and still trying to see patients, which I think is definitely something that companies and business people struggle. Well, hypothetically, owners of law firms, Jarek raised his hand, may have issues dealing with as things become more and more busy. Mostly, I picked this episode, one, because it's a fun episode and because of the quote that Jeff did, but really the sort of legal issues of Dr. Cox's inability to delegate as chief of medicine. I'll jump into the first thing, which is, as part of Ted's clip, he happens to mention that he only took the bar exam in Alaska. And apparently they only have like 4 laws. Pretty sure that's not true, but let's hypothetically say that Alaska is one of the easier bar exams. Completely hypothetical. Can Ted be the general counsel for a hospital in California? And the answer is actually yes. Yes, but he had to have practiced for a while. So I actually looked up the California law. I think all states have a version of sort of a like general counsel, in-house counsel version of being admitted to practice, which means you do not have to have a actual license to go into court in a specific state or jurisdiction. You can be considered a general counsel or an in-house counsel. And at least in California, the rules are that you have to be licensed and in good standing in another U.S. jurisdiction. You have to work for a qualified institution in California that employs at least 5 full-time employees, or you have an active license in good standing in California, and you have to reside in California. So let's assume that Ted did, in fact, take the bar exam in Alaska. And let's also assume, because I'm not sure if we know this, I have watched Scrubs many times, I'm not sure if we fully have Ted's background. Let's hypothetically say that Ted worked in Alaska for a little bit.
Sure.
And then moved to California. And then became GC at Sacred Heart.
Some sort of seal trapping attorney, or
as one would. He knows all the things about seals. Technically, he could become the GC.
Interestingly, in Alaska, you attach an actual seal to documents when they're notarized. So that's something else.
Yikes! That's fucking terrible. Do it, Jeff. Press the damn button.
Maximum daring.
That's not the button. That's not the button. Press the other button.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
I enjoyed doing that far too much.
That podcast has devolved. And the best part about this is Mike is not even paying attention. So we
have been going for nearly 2 hours.
So what's the problem?
I've gotten more laughs out of us talking than from the Scrubs, like exponentially more.
I will, but here's one thing that the interesting part of this conversation, this is really why I brought this up, and I'm sure Jeff can certainly jump into more about the sort of delegation management of others that that sort of Dr. Cox he faces in the medical field, I'm sure you're going to talk about in the legal field, is like there are a lot of lawyers who are practicing who don't have like a specific state license. They are GCs, they're in-house counsels, they're able to give advice to their clients. They just can't jump into court. And in those situations, they hire external legal counsel to handle any actual litigation, going to court, things like that. The one other thing I want to bring up, and this is at least interesting from my perspective as a solo practitioner, is the concept of practicing in a jurisdiction you're not in. Like, I give it, like, there are a lot of lawyers out there that give advice on Delaware transactional corporate issues, on things like that aren't in their jurisdiction. It's actually really interesting that, and I'm not going to sit here and get into this on this podcast, but there is a lot of interesting conversations that happen about, like, can you give advice in a different jurisdiction as long as you're not going into court actively representing your clients in a litigation? Because let's be honest, the GCs, they might be giving advice on any state, depending upon where the contract's legal language is, things along that nature. And I'm sure, Jeff, you do this all the time. Like, you're going into tons of different jurisdictions, and granted, you'll have local counsel there to help you in the litigations. That doesn't mean you're not giving initial advice based on what that state law is.
Yeah. I mean, when we send a demand letter to a, school district or something, I don't need to have local counsel draft that letter.
Right.
This is something that, any attorney working for a national civil rights organization is going to deal with.
And it's honestly true of any sort of lawyer working on behalf of a company too, is you don't necessarily have to be admitted in that jurisdiction. Now, you have to have done the research, right? Like, you can't just be throwing in completely BS legal language, even though that does happen all the time to my clients, and I have to remind them of the law that actually applies. But yeah, so you don't have to do that. And that's in a similar way. That's what sort of those who are admitted as a general counsel or in-house counsel to certain states, like they might be in many ways looking at the laws of any state at any moment, which is, obviously they're focused on the state that their company is in, but there's a very good chance a lot of their contracts are Delaware law or wherever, and they're going to have to sort of deal with that as is. But I want you, Jeff, to talk about delegation, managing responsibilities, fun things like that.
It's challenging. I particularly struggle with, if I have a brief that needs writing, my first instinct is, well, I need to handle it from beginning to end. I need to do all the research. I need to, do all the drafting. And I do have to force myself to, I have law clerks for a reason. Law clerks are supposed to be there for the educational experience, and it's my responsibility to give them.
Explain, Jeff, who a law clerk is.
Sure. So law clerks, we have every semester and during the summer, at least one, up to 3 law clerks, law students who are joining us for a semester to get learning experience. Sometimes they'll do it in exchange for course credit, in which case they're technically, I think, externs, depending on what terms their school uses, or for compensation. We don't do non-compensated law clerks. I view that as very wrong. They are law students who come to us to learn, and it's I'm not doing my job with them if I'm not giving them practical experience learning what it is to litigate. And a lot of that is doing the research for briefs, and doing, doc review for discovery and things like that. I don't mind so much farming out the discovery doc review. I'm fine with that. But even right now, I'm dealing with a couple of amicus briefs that I'm drafting where I am consciously forcing myself to farm out portions of them to other attorneys who I trust, who have volunteered their time, and then also to our law clerk. But right now, our law clerk is mostly devoted to monitoring state bills because it's the beginning of the legislative session and it's a fire hose of shit. Sorry, Mom. That we have to deal with. I've been doing this for 9 years now, and it still is difficult for me to tell myself I have to be able to set some of this aside because I can't do everything.
Yeah.
In very much the same way that Dr. Cox deals with his issues. And unfortunately, there wasn't like a great clip of Dr. Cox struggling with, it's all visual because it's Scrubs. But, you know, there just is not time in the day to do all the GC stuff and do all of the legal director supervisory stuff and do all of the litigation, amicus work, advocacy stuff that we do. I have to delegate some of it. Now, thankfully, we have policy people on staff whose job is specifically that. So I don't, that's less of a struggle. But nonetheless, it is a challenge, both because if something isn't going to go well, I want it to be my fault and not someone else's fault. And I also always have this feeling that I'm burdening people. This feel like this is turning into a therapy session. But no, I have to remind myself, look, they are here to do this work. I am not, imposing on them by asking them to do their job. Nonetheless, it's a struggle.
First off, agree entirely. I mean, it is sometimes very, like, I've had this conversation with a lot of not only lawyers, but business people too. It is being a junior does not make you a good mid-level, does not make you a good senior, does not make you a good partner. And it is a sort of every single one of those things. And I think of it as a sort of big firm thing, but every organization is a little different. It is hard to sort of keep moving with what your job forces you to do on the legal side. There are some phenomenal researchers out there and phenomenal writers who don't necessarily, what their skills don't necessarily compute to what the next level is, right?
Sure.
Which is very hard. I got to imagine, knowing a little bit about Dr. Cox, he's not an administrator.
No.
I can't imagine he's a guy diving into the financials. He's a guy that wants to be on the floor with his patients doing what he wants to do, right? And I'll tell you, in a hospital that has a real legal officer, not Ted, there is a significant concern that one of your best doctors who does not want to be an administrator is now an administrator. And I'm not saying it's a legal issue yet, but it could be. Because and again, the couple times he said he wanted to be with his patient and then he couldn't be there and JD had to step in for him. I don't think there was any legal issue there, but if he had said, no, I'm in charge and then is not there for him, that could be a legal issue.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to picture taking it out of Scrubs and putting it in, like, if Dr. House had to do Cuddy's job.
God help us.
Like, he and the hospital would explode.
Right. They'd leave a flag where the hospital used to be, and then they'd let them know that come find us.
Right.
Yeah. Like, as intense as Dr. Cox is, I'm not saying he would be a bad administrator. I'm just saying he wouldn't be the one I'd select. Shit, I'd select JD over him. In terms of, like, getting the sort of documentary stuff done. Cox does not seem like a documents guy or a financials guy.
I mean, I'm not sure what I remember of this show and what we've seen for this podcast. I'm not sure I would trust JD with the paperwork either, but in fact, I get what you're saying.
In fact, I wouldn't trust any of them to be my doctor, but that's completely besides the point. Anyway, any other thoughts? Mike, do you have anything on this episode?
Sorry, I don't have a ton on this episode.
No, that's fine.
We just talked about malpractice a bit ago, so we don't really need to.
One thing I will note, and interesting in this episode, this is one of the very few episodes where both Turk and Elliot are not in the episode.
There you go. Oh, actually, I do have a bit on this episode.
Sure, go for it.
This was absolute peak acapella, or actually like on the way up to peak acapella. I think. When did this episode come out? 2009. Like
yes.
Was Glee out already?
2009 or 2010.
Yeah, Glee was out, and like Pitch Perfect was probably about to come out. This is like obnoxious acapella on the way up.
I'm going to push back on one thing, and that is that Pitch Perfect is not obnoxious acapella. That is,
it's good. I understand, but it's part of the larger problem.
Are you guys also are you guys also aware that the Worthless Peons is actually a real band called The Blanks?
Are we all about to break out into song right now? Carry
on my wayward son.
What?
Are you aware that the Worthless Peons is actually a real was a real band in
we're
real
all
life?
aware. We're all.
I was not, but okay.
It's Ted's actual band in real life.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Sam Lloyd, Paul Perry, George Mazerolis, and Philip McNevin were actually a band, and they appear in many episodes of Scrubs. I am not going to sit here and count them. I am going to tell you that I, believe it or not, saw them in person
That's very funny.
and talked.
I saw Rockapella in person.
I love that. We are now going to cut to the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Sure, I'll drop it in.
You got. I was about to say.
Copyright strike. Do we have some sort of legal aspect we can discuss to make it fair use?
I don't have anything off top. I could find something. We'll figure it out. Just a brief clip, 10 seconds.
Sure.
Fair use.
All right.
Just
Here you go.
Just do the bass. The Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
Take you for a ride on the boat to China. Tell me where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego.
Steal their soul in South Korea. Make it not a good my uncle.
I'll drop in Zombie Jamboree with Rockapella.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, what a zombie jamboree from Times Square to the Statue of Liberty. Uptown, downtown, zombie jamboree.
Totally unfamiliar song to anybody but me.
Does anyone else have any trivia on these?
Nah, nothing.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the ratings. I'm happy to start. I don't know where you guys are going. Listen, I love Scrubs. It is one of my favorite shows. I found all three of these episodes entertaining. Maybe not laugh out loud, haha funny, although I have watched Scrubs about 30 times. So at this point, I can probably quote the episodes without even thinking. It's a yes for me on the entertainment. On the law, it's a big fat no. I tried to find a way to make it a yes, but Ted's such a disaster. Like the M&M conference is not what it would be, and even that's not legal, but it's still like it's legal-ish. And let's just be honest, Ted is not a great in-house attorney. And any company who is using him as their in-house attorney has actively failed everybody. Just everybody. He has moments of brilliance. That's all I can say. So it's a no. Jeff?
Yeah, on the law, no. There's really not much that the show gets right on any of this. I liked the little, the nod to the McDonald's lawsuit, even though it was a very, very slight nod. There's just I'm trying to come up with something nice to say and failing. No, there's no good law here. And on the entertainment value, like I've already said, there were exactly 2 laughs that I got from watching this. One was Kate Micucci, who I will happily laugh with for the rest of my life. And also Dr. Cox's young child. And I didn't actually pull this clip, having stapled his clothes to a wall,
that was funny,
drawn
yeah.
himself a brother. That made me laugh.
But I would say my laugh was actually Dr. Cox's comment after where he said he's either a genius or an idiot.
Sure. Yeah.
So just pull the clip, Jeff, because actually it's a very good clip.
Hey guys, I finally got a brother!
Kid's either a genius or an idiot.
I was actually kicking myself. I watched all 3 episodes and then realized I hadn't made notes of the time codes where all these clips were, which meant I was going to have to watch all 3 again in order to pull the clips and have them ready for this recording. So no, I'm still a no. I remember liking this show. I don't remember why. Mike?
Oh, I'm happy you went before me. I enjoy this show in the sense that it was comfort food for like you'd watch it in the background when you're in college or law school or whatever. But yeah, these sort of standard sitcoms that seemed like this take on a sitcom seemed so innovative at the time. And then you realize it's just the formula of like, oh, it's a sitcom, but the voiceover is in the character's head and Malcolm's just facing the camera now. And it's sort of like, it becomes trite very quickly. the early to mid 2000 riff on a sitcom. I still enjoy it. It's not, this is not amazing cinema, but I'll give it a slight thumbs up on liking it, and then a thumbs down on the actual quality of the law.
I will take Mike's slight thumbs up. That's a big win for me right there.
Have either of you seen... Mom, apologies. Have either of you seen Kevin Can Fuck Himself?
No.
I've had this show recommended to me several times, and it is apparent. I have not watched it yet.
Is it related to we have to talk about Kevin?
No. Other than the sort of, again, nod in the title. But apparently it is structured in such a way that like half of the show is a 90s, early 2000s sitcom. It's shot in the style of a sitcom. But then whenever we're seeing Kevin's wife on her own, it is a dark drama. It's all the same sets and everything, but they've relit it for like a Netflix HBO style drama where it's like she is in a terrible marriage and is miserable. And it's like if you took, King of Queens and made it about Leah Remini's character and how miserable she must be with Kevin James's character.
Gotcha.
But only when she's by herself do we see things from her perspective. Which I want to watch it. I just haven't found the time.
It sounds very WandaVision-esque.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking like
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
Okay. The spoof on the tropes of sitcoms. I had never heard of that. That sounds very interesting. I might look that up. All right. Is there anything else we need to hit, guys? After 2 hours of recording?
I don't think so. We are at 2 hours.
I hope not.
Okay. I have to go spend time with my fiance. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.
See you, Mike.
The Not So Grand Jury is sponsored by Morwa P. LLC.
The opinions expressed in the Not So Grand Jury are those of the hosts themselves and not of their respective employers.
The theme music for the Not So Grand Jury is from Gustav Holst's Jupiter and is in the public domain.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, if you want to suggest future movies, or even if you want to offer corrections, you can email us at notsograndjury@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media accounts.
The Not So Grand Jury is copyright 2026, all rights reserved.